music taking over. Wicked man already tumble over. No two ways about them thing, the man. And my name is certainly Blakk Rasta. Tune after tune, bullet after bullet. Mr. Satan Lucifer already dead. The 4th African Athletics Championship is here, right here in Accra. Oh my God, have mercy, Ghana. Are you ready to have fun? Oh my God, the 24th African Athletics competition is right here, my brother, my sister. Ghana, are you ready? Now get set for Africa's biggest athletic spectacle. The 24th Senior African Athletics Championship coming live right here in Accra all the way from the 12th. It was live and it will be going off around the 17th. So make sure you catch it before Sunday. My brother, my sister, remember, we started on the 12th and we're going all the way till the 17th. Are you coming along? And it's happening at the University of Ghana Sports Complex, Legon. And make sure you are there to watch the head-to-head thrilling track and field competitions. What global stars like Beatrice Chebet, Faith Chipiagon, Toby Amusan, Colin Kabina Chepi, Joseph Fambule, Akane Sambini, Muzala, Samu Konga, and of course our own stars will be there. Benjamin Azamati. Yesterday they won the 400, by Abdul Rashid Saminu. What? They won the what? The 400 by 1. Oh yes. Hey my God, and they did a good dance. Were you there to watch the dance? And it's powered by the Ministry of Sports and Recreation, Confederation of African Athletics and the Ghana Athletics. Be there, feel it live, witness each story, feel the heat. Hey, the whole of Africa is here. What are you waiting for? It's happening right there inside the Legon Stadium. It started on the 12th. We went live, and it's going to be on till Sunday. And Blakk Rasta is going to be playing on Sunday to close the whole event. Are you coming? I know you will come. Come and make us proud. Hey, reggae music will be playing. Oh my God, I can't wait. Any which way, my name Blakk Rasta, Ghana's #1, Africa's finest. And I told you already, my guest is in the house, and I cannot wait, my brother, my sister, to talk to my guests. It's going to be a very beautiful interview. When we return, we go straight into action.
Ghana, get ready for the Ultimate Athletics Showdown, the 24th Senior African Athletics Championship.
Ghana's #1, Africa's finest. And I want to say good afternoon to you wherever you find yourself. Maybe good evening to some people. And of course, good morning to some people. As long as you are alive, it's either morning or evening. Afternoon is in between. Oh my God, have mercy. Wherever you are, God bless you and keep the fire blazing hard. Now my guest is Luqman Abubakari. Luqman Abubakari is an independent energy analyst. course, he works in the energy sector. We're going to be talking about the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to be talking about the closure and the opening and all the things to deal with energy. Yes, to do with energy. And how to deal with the energy lapses and beyond. Luqman Abubakari is my guest. Luqman, how are you doing?
I'm good, Blakk.
I'm happy to have you. Thank you so much for accepting to talk to us.
Thank you, Blakk.
All right, so when we talk about energy, what really are we talking about?
Blakk, thanks for hosting me. It's been a long time. Blakk, I and I is a Rasta man. So I and I would like to give a verse before we boom to business. Jaja see them all come. I and I are Kongoro. Jaja see them all come. They are coming to accuse us of the things that we know nothing about. Jaja see them all come. Give them fire. I and I are Kongoro. Yeah, Blakk. It's just a way of a cutting razor.
Thank you
to the
so
program.
Much. Thank you so much, and we love that. Yes. And that's music from culture.
Culture, yes. Keep up Zion Gates.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So energy, what exactly is energy?
Yeah, so Blakk, very interesting question. And energy actually is our daily use of anything that we use to, make our lives much better. For instance, without energy, we will not be sitting here. If the electricity goes out from this studio, I'm sure we will not have an interview. So energy is actually something that is contributing to the upkeep of our daily lives.
So energy is anything we use to make our lives comfortable?
Very comfortable.
So when we make love to our wives, is that energy?
Blakk Rasta is not part of energy, but of course, energy is actually whatever is, the economy depends on energy. Any facet of our life, be it the market, everything is shaped by energy. And that's why I use the scenario of the electricity we're currently enjoying here. It is energy, it's an example of energy. And without it, I'm not sure our lives will be more meaningful.
So what is energy?
Yeah, so energy is actually a scenario where we use, fossil fuels, if you like, or carbon emissions to generate power to transform the way industries, our homes, and even our agriculture, how we use all of this to, make our lives much easier. But Blakk, I use fossil fuels because if you look at the spectrum, about 80% of our industrial use are actually hinged on energy. And this energy is actually produced from fossil fuels. And when I say fossil fuels, they are just, addictive, distilleries like
Luqman,
yeah.
What is energy? We want to understand what energy is so we can move forward. If we have students here,
yeah,
and you are talking to them, what would you say energy is?
Yeah, so basically, to the layman, energy forms all the, stuff that makes our lives very easy. For instance, gasoline is part of energy. Electricity is part of energy. Crude is part of energy. So the totality of this that makes our lives much comfortable or easy to cope with is basically, in the layman's view, what we call energy.
So if I sit outside and I'm enjoying some fresh breeze from nature, that's energy?
No, that's not energy. That's why I try to use some kind of, metrics to let you understand this. That's why I keep on using the electricity, because basically this is what the layman understands.
You are giving me examples of energy.
Yes.
And I want you to explain to us what energy is.
So Blakk.
Yes.
In order to explain this, you
Yes.
can't explain it in a vacuum. You are supposed to use a metric.
Okay.
And the metric is the examples I'm giving, because you can't explain something in abstract.
Okay.
You need to come out with concrete, ideas that will make the lay person, a people in primary one, to understand what basically we are talking about. So basically, we have thermal energy, which is basically what the electricity. We have what we call. I'm trying to use more concrete ideas so that people will understand what basically we are talking about. So, for instance, if you were powering your car to work, you are actually using energy, because you are using energy that is actually produced from a combustion engine, and that is triggered by petroleum. So basically, stuff like this are what we can classify as energy.
Okay. So when I was in school, I was taught that energy is the ability to do work.
Exactly, but we are not doing book definition.
Okay.
We're trying to mimic it to the layman point of, because Blakk, if you come saying energy is the ability to do work.
Yes.
So the fact that we are in work, is it energy?
Yes.
The fact that we are sitting here and doing work, is it energy?
Yes.
No.
The ability to do work.
Yes, but you have to bring it to an abstract, to a more concrete terms, that if somebody sees a car moving, the car is actually exerting a particular kinetic energy to perform the particular action. So you cannot just say energy is the ability to do work. To what extent is that work done? What is triggering the work? What is actually informing the action to produce the work? So you need to bring it down. But you cannot just come and say energy is the ability. Yeah, I mean, it's a very basic thing for everyone. But I will not go that way, because experts don't just come to do definitions. No, experts move away from the classroom definition to give a more concretized definitions.
Okay, so give me the concretized definition.
Yeah, so that's why I keep on using electricity, because this is what basically people are much familiar with. Electricity is in every home, even in our rural areas. We have solar electricity. So the energy that these lights or lamps are producing is basically what we classify as primary form of energy. So if your electricity goes out, you say, oh, my power is gone out, or my power is gone off. What is producing the power? The power is exerting some particular energy, and that energy is called electricity energy. If a car is moving, the energy it exerts is locomotive energy. So basically, this is for an abstract person to know that, okay, this is what energy is all about. But if you define energy as the ability to do work, it's more like, in vague.
Okay, so in school I was taught that we have two states of energy, kinetic energy, and then we also have potential energy. And then the common forms of energy include thermal, chemical, electrical.
So thermal would have been extracted from bitumen. When bitumen is heated up, you see that the road you use, and more concrete, the road you use. Usually you go to the road, you see that the temperatures are so high. Okay. It's exerting thermal energy.
Okay, so we are going to move away from all these definitions and all that. And then when we are talking about energy, to the layman, what are the forms? What are we really talking about? Is it electricity? Is it petroleum? What really are we talking about?
So basically when we talk about energy, it's a generic term. So you would not want to say petroleum, electricity, but it's a generic term. And that is why we even talk about the energy transition. Because Blakk, in the primary school, the JSS, we used to hear about what we call greenhouse gases or the ozone layer. They say when the sun's ozone layer is depleted, when the Earth's ozone layer is depleted, the direct shine of the sun comes to human beings, which gives them cancers and all those stuff. Now we've graduated to a point we have what we call climate change, and all of this were informed by energy, and now we are at a stage where we even want to say that we are transitioning away from all these form of fossil fuels to a more clean and a more greener energy regime. So basically all of this, put all of this in an equation, you see that energy needs to be transformed. Energy do not have to be static. That the way we look at energy, like what we were saying, the types of energy. No, we are moving away from the types of energy. So when we say energy, it's a conundrum of things, and it's a cocktail of several energy forms coming together to form a one generic term called energy.
Which are these energy forms?
Good. You have mentioned them. You have mentioned kinetic, and those are just primary energies. But here we are talking of crude. Because when you extract crude from the the earth of the surface, you get petrol. Petrol is basically what we call gasoline. And then we have gas oil, which is diesel. Then you have bitumen, which is quota. Bitumen, a lot of people call it quota. But the most important thing now we are looking at is how we are able to transition away from all of these things, because we do not want to always engage in these primary forms of energy or the crude way energy is extracted, because it is not good for the earth. It is not good for our living. And that is why we keep talking about the energy transition. And of course, when you mentioned the Strait of Hormuz, the waterway, that energy, transports pass through. They don't carry anything but basically crude oil. And crude oil is supposed to be refined into various forms of distillate to now give us all of what we are called energy.
Is that the main kind of energy that people use?
Of course, it's the main kind of energy.
It's crude oil.
It's crude oil. And I'll give you a classical example. The electricity we are enjoying here, I'm sure, is from the Ghana Electricity Company,
right,
which is a distribution sector. Now, this electricity, before it's generated to give us this light, it undergoes through a process. A thermal plant is supposed to be fired through a gas. Then you have a barge sitting in oil, which is also fired through, diesel. And then you feed most of these barges or power plants with what we call natural gas, LNG. And all of this thing, the end goal is to produce what we are using it for. So we use this electricity, we use, the air conditioning is on. It gives us cooling services.
So it means that the electricity that we use is actually powered by crude oil.
Of course. It's powered by crude oil.
Right.
Diesel, I totally remember, diesel is a byproduct of crude oil.
Right.
Gasoline, or what we call petrol,
right,
is a byproduct of crude oil.
Bitumen
yes, is a byproduct of crude oil. Even natural gas.
Yes.
So we have associated gas, non-associated gas. Associated gas because when it is produced, when it is extracted from crude oil, it's associated gas in association to crude oil. When gas is taken out from natural fields, they are natural gas oil, non-associated gas. So all of this natural gas, maybe one point at a time, you would have heard that, our gas is run out and thermal plants are getting off.
Can we do without crude oil?
Yes, we can do without crude oil.
Because it looks like every form of energy that we have right now is linked in one way or the other to crude oil.
So we have hydro.
Yes.
Which is water.
Water, yes.
Yes, but Blakk, the most important thing here, I think we should be looking at is our ability to transition away from crude oil.
Why?
Because of the, hidden problems it gives us.
What are the hidden problems?
A lot more time, people have what we call cancer. I'm sure cancer is very common.
How do you get cancer from that?
Yes, I'll come to explain to you. People have lungs problems. So when you power a vehicle with diesel, for instance, or petrol, it emits. And emissions are very common. It gives you carbon emissions. And because these things, these various fumes from the exhaust of our cars are coming from, petrol or diesel, it emits. And these emissions have what we call a radiation power in them. And when it comes to in contact with the human body, it's not good for our body. It gets reacted, and then it keeps the metabolism going on, and it produces cancerous activities in our body. And so we are saying that we should decarbonize our system, the energy system. We should decarbonize it away from crude oil and all forms of fossil fuels that are dangerous to our very existence.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
This is 3FM.
Okay, so because we have some challenges with crude oil, it will be wise to move away from crude oil. Is that what you're saying?
To transition away from crude oil. And Blakk, let me put this in the right perspective. When we say we're transitioning away from crude oil, it necessarily doesn't mean that we're going to say we're not going to do anything with crude oil. No, we can't. It's a natural resource and it's finite. We cannot say we are going to leave it on tap. No, we actually going to tap into it and get it out of the earth's surface. But mind you, Blakk, there is every point in time, innovation has to be at work. The world is a very globalized village. Technology abounds now. So what are we doing? We need to diversify the way we do some of these things. And diversity simple doesn't mean that you're going to abandon the way you do your business. No, you still do your business, but you try to introduce some kind of innovation into the way and manner you use these products of crude into your daily activities. So for instance, I'll give you a classical example again. If you are using crude oil, petrol, to fire your cars, now you can use clean energy like electricity to power your cars. You can use renewable power like wind turbines to produce electricity. These are cheap and these are very clean. You can use solar, for instance, to give yourself electricity. And when you look at our energy mix in Ghana, for instance, we have thermal energy, then we have hydro energy. But solar is even less than 1% in the energy mix. But our capacity here in Ghana is solar. We have a lot of solar. But unfortunately, we don't use it. And that is where our capacity is. So when we use solar, when we use thermal energy, when we use hydro energy, these are sources of clean energy. We are transitioning away from crude. We are not really using the crude for anything because you can power your cars with electricity, you can still power your gen sets with solar energy and stuff like that. So you transition away from the usual crude oil to a more cleaner energy regime. But on the flip side, all of these things have what we call risks associated to them.
Okay.
They don't just come in handy with that risk.
Let me take you back a bit.
Good.
What is crude oil?
Yes, so crude actually is crude oil basically is a product of hydrocarbons. When we're in school, most of us who have the privilege of doing science, you see hydrocarbons. So hydrocarbons are actually the makeup of crude oil, which is hidden under the earth's surface. So they mine crude, let me use it in a layman's term, they mine it, what we call drilling. So they mine crude just like the way they mined gold to get it out from the earth's surface. And it undergoes some kind of chemical reaction.
How do you explain to a layman what crude oil is? For instance, if somebody asks me what granite oil is, I will go straight and talk to them and tell them that, when you squeeze liquid out of granules or peanuts, you get granite oil.
Yeah, so crude oil actually is also hidden under rocks. So it's a form of liquid hidden under rocks. So from the lay term, it's hidden under the sedimented base of rocks. And so you dig up the rock, you hit water, you sometimes hit gas, and then the crude is sitting right in there. It's like dark in nature. It's solvent.
Is it made from dead animals?
Yes, it's made of dead animals. That is why I keep saying they are hydrocarbons. So they are made of dead animals, more like bio something, hidden in the earth surface for a very long time, and it decomposes. And all this decomposition comes together to sort of undergo some metabolism in order to become crude, which is hidden beneath the earth's surface.
It means dead humans can also produce crude oil.
To a larger extent. To a larger extent. And that is why I made the point that it is not actually safe for human, contact.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this oil that we have down there, has its own problems.
Yeah.
And because of that, there is the need to transition from
away.
these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
From these people called the hydrocarbons that
Exactly.
form the crude oil and all
Blakk,
that.
before we even continue, you would remember in 2015, not quite long, about 196-95 countries went to Paris to sign a pact called the Paris Climate Pact.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sure you are very familiar with this.
This is 3FM.
We signed this pact because the policymakers at the time thought that we have to transition away from the way we do, oil businesses, because the earth surface or the earth is supposed to be a much safer place for human beings to dwell. So they signed onto this pact, and the main tenet, the main theme of the pact was to reduce global carbon emissions to 1.5 degrees Celsius, or what we call 2 degrees Celsius pre-industrial level. We signed this pact because policymakers at the time...
That's temperature.
Yes, temperature. They were trying to reduce it because the activities of getting crude and all of these processes, heat up the environment, giving us so much temperatures. And so it was necessary for us to do what? Decarbonize the environment, to make it more friendly, to make it more cooler. Blakk, if you agree with me, even in Accra here, sometimes the temperatures can go to a very extent, very hot.
Yes.
That even when you turn on your AC,
but it gives you just hot air.
Yes, you are still struggling.
Yes.
To make sense out of the environment.
Right.
No, now we say that no, we should decarbonize, and unfortunately, global South countries, and when I say global South, let me come down to a lay point, like poor countries, let me put it that way, are where we have enormous deposit of crude oil, and if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria is very warm, Ghana is very warm, Cameroon is very warm. Wherever you go, maybe East Africa is better, Kenya is a bit, cold. But any other country in the sub-region, they are very warm because we need to reduce the way temperatures are rising to a 1.5 degrees Celsius, or what we call the pre-industrial level, so that the earth would be a very super and fantastic place to dwell.
Is that what is called a decarbonization?
Of course, the decarbonization.
It's basically reduction of temperature.
Yes, temperatures, because it is assumed that the activities of oil extraction and the way, fossil fuels are burned daily has increased the percentage of the temperature to a particular degrees. And Paris, the framers of the framework was, let's reduce it to a 1.5 degrees Celsius or a 2 degrees Celsius. That is a pre-industrial level.
I'm going to look at how we can reduce this. What process do we use to do that? But first, what's the difference between fossil fuels and crude oil?
Yes, so crude is actually a byproduct of fossil fuel.
Okay.
Yeah, so crude is basically a byproduct of fossil fuel. So anytime you hear of crude, you think of fossil fuels because they are not clean energy. But anytime you see solar, you don't think of fossil fuel, and you don't think of crude because it's a clean energy. Anytime you hear of wind, it's a form of clean energy.
Fossil fuels,
so they are renewables.
Fossil fuels are basically biofuels.
Exactly.
Fuels that are from,
dead plants,
dead animals, and all
of those stuff.
Basically that.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Yes, I mean, historians
because
know
they are formed from sediments of rocks, if you like.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So my guest is Abubakari Luqman. Oh my God. He is an independent energy analyst. And we are looking at a number of things, and we are trying to keep it very basic so that everybody can understand. Now, Luqman, tell me this. The reduction of the temperature, what you call the decarbonization.
Yeah.
How is it done?
Yeah, so Blakk, that is why I started by giving you a premise, giving you the Paris Agreement and all of these things. Now, if you look at every human individual, you and I, our co-workers, our colleagues, I mean, people own vehicles. We have what we call carbon footprints.
Right.
So the moment you turn on your ignition, something is taking place.
Something is taking place.
You understand?
Right.
You are consuming energy.
Yes.
So that particular energy you are giving out, it produces emission. That is your individual carbon footprints. And we are saying that we should reduce it. And that's a very good question. How do we reduce it? One, we have to transition away from fossil fuels. So your car should not be powered by gasoline, what we call petrol in layman's language. All these heavy trucks are powered by diesel.
Okay.
diesel also emits hydrocarbons. So if we want to transition away from this, then we should be able to fix our cars. Our cars' engines are supposed to be reinvented to a more friendly, energy regime. So electric cars may help. And these days, Ghana has majority of the people have gone in for electric cars on the roads. It may help. When we are going to talk about electricity, we can look at the renewable energy, and renewable energy consists of solar, and we have the sunlight sitting out there. We have wind. You can set up wind turbines to give you to rotate to produce electricity.
So decarbonization basically is staying away from crude oils and all that.
Fossil fuel. Let us not limit it to crude, but fossil fuels.
Yes, in general.
Yeah, exactly, in general. Because if you say crude, you are limiting it to a particular.
Just one, yes.
But fossil fuels in general, to a more cleaner energy regimes such as wind turbines, hydro energy. You can do thermal, but you can do clean thermal energy.
So we have looked at crude oil as part of fossil fuels.
Of course.
What other fossil fuels do you know?
Yes, so Blakk, you look at something like diesel. Even though diesel is
crude.
It's crude, but diesel also undergoes some kind of processes. That is why when you go to the pump, they will tell you that the diesel we now have is more light because they've added what we call additives to it to make it light. So it bends.
It's an example. Petrol is an example.
Exactly.
Bitumen is an example.
Yes, exactly.
All those ones are from fossil
fuel. But our concentration is on the emissions they give out.
Yeah, that's right.
The emissions they give out. That's where our concentration. Because it is because of the emissions, the hydrocarbon nature of them, that is why it is not good for the earth.
Do you foresee that we'll be able to do away totally with fossil fuels?
Yes, so there is a scenario, if you have heard of the International Energy Agency, it's an OECD attachment in Paris. So there is a scenario that by 2050, we should have a net zero regime.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and Blakk, this is another technical term. Let me, break it down. When we say a net zero regime, it's just like what you have said, not to do anything with fossil fuel.
In 24 years' time, this will be achievable.
Exactly. That is the scenario they have kept.
24
years from now.
I would be about 76, I think.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, but the fact that they said we are going to experience a net zero really doesn't mean that we're going to do away with, carbon or fossil fuels totally. But our emission levels would have been reduced. And that is why I said that our carbon footnotes are very important for me in this discussion. If people learn how to even do carpooling, you park your car, you join a public transport, we have eliminated at least 1 ton of emissions in the system. Because if you drive, 99% of the cars we drive on the road are gasoline.
Yes, true.
Are gasoline.
True.
You understand? And look at each carbon footnotes we are recording. Very massive. Even your carpool, I've seen a lot of gasoline cars there. And I was like, what? Imagine everyone starts their engine to go home. Look at the carbon footnotes, the carbon footprints we are going to be capturing. But, thanks to technology, we can actually capture this and store it. Capture it and store it. But it's another conversation we'll have some other time. If we have the time, it's another conversation we'll have.
Right.
So definitely we can win ourselves out of crude oil.
Tell me about the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, very interesting question. Blakk, Strait of Hormuz have existed not now. It's been a waterway. It provides about 20% of the global energy needs. And again, when we say energy needs, we're talking of crude, basically.
Okay, 20%.
Yes, 20%. Now, there had been wars in the Middle East. This is not the first time the Middle East there are disturbances. There was war
This
in Iraq.
is 3FM.
There was war in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
There was war in Libya. And all of these countries I have mentioned, they are oil-producing countries. In fact, they are net exporter of crude. And when we say net exporter of crude, Black, again, let's bring it down to the layman. Net exporter because they export more of crude oil than they buy in, right? When we say net importer, you buy more than you give out. So, and unfortunately or fortunately, Iran happens to be one of these countries. Iran is a very important country when we are discussing energy, because Iran produces heavy crude, which is very important in the energy mix. And Iran borders the strait from the north, I think.
Right.
And then Kuwait from the south.
Right.
So these two countries are very important, and they are more like, gatekeepers of the strait. And once there are disturbances in the Middle East and the strait is shut in,
right,
it distracts everything. It do not just distract the energy space, but it even distracts the way geopolitics are done. So the Strait of Hormuz is a very important water canal, or if you like, a waterway that, crude oil tankers or shipping vessels use to their various destinations.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's about the Strait of Hormuz, right?
Yeah.
So my guest in the studio is Abubakari Luqman. Conqueror Luqman Abubakari is my guest, and he is an independent energy analyst. Now, I have a very important question here. It sounds a little funny, but it says, when I eat food and I get the energy to work, is that the kind of energy you are talking about?
Yes. So, Blakk, you remember when you asked me what is energy?
Yes.
I was kind of hesitant to tell you that energy is the ability to do work.
Yes.
No, I won't do that.
Okay.
No matter the situation. But I was trying to quickly figure out something in my mind.
Commercial energy.
Exactly. Because the moment you say energy is the ability to do work, you are actually
limiting it.
And that is so basic. That
Yes.
is so primary. At this level, we don't want to say energy is there. It's just like, what is atom? Atom is the smallest particle unit. No, you wouldn't want to do that. So this is a very interesting question. So if you eat your food, right, and you have some kind of metabolism taking place in your system, and you are energized, is it energy? That's not the kind of energy we are talking about here.
Is electricity the closest and the most important we can use to replace?
Electricity, because, even if you go to the remotest of village in this country, you would have had electricity, even if it is not actually associated with the national grid. Maybe it's just a standalone solar power they are using to power it. So basically, electricity is always the basic form of, examples you could give to a lay person.
Do you foresee that a day would come when water would be used instead of fossil fuels in cars?
Water has always been. That is why I mentioned hydro. But again,
in cars?
Yes. In cars, of course. If you go to China, they use water, and that is very interesting. I have the opportunity to work on a project whilst I was studying for my master's in energy policy. I used to work with Energiewende, and that is Dutch word. So Energiewende in Dutch simply means energy transition. So we used to do what we call green hydrogen. Hydrogen basically is water. When you actually allow water to go through some electrolysis, you can turn it to hydrogen, which is basically water. And Blakk, if you go to Saudi Arabia, there are pumps you send your car. And that was why I was telling you that we have to actually what? Reverse our car engines. You go to a pump, they don't sell gasoline to you. Let me say, they don't sell petrol to you, or they don't sell gas oil, diesel to you. They pump green hydrogen into your car, and it works perfectly.
And what is that? Water?
That is water. That's what I said. Hydrogen basically is water. That is what I said. But that's why I keep saying that it undergoes some electrolysis. So chemical reactions would have taken place. So the usual water you are looking at is no longer water. It's just like the coolant we have in our car combustion engines. That coolant is water, but it's not a normal water. It's a chemical addition into it. They have tweaked it to form water, and it's performed the cooling aspect of the engine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's established that we need to decarbonize.
Exactly.
And again, we have to look for some other options.
Of course, alternative forms of energy.
Yes, and the biggest right now is electricity.
Electricity, but Blakk, let's look at something. The way and manner the energy space is structured, you cannot talk about energy without talking about the national oil companies, right? So in every country, you have your national oil company sitting there. Then you then come down to the downstream, where you have, Gridco, Netco, VRA, and all of those guys. These guys would have to, as a matter of fact, also begin to think about how they are going, innovative ways, they are going to, decarbonize their systems. Because when we talk about decarbonization, it will not happen in a vacuum. It has to happen with human beings. It has to happen with institutions. It has to happen even with policymakers. But again, when people's interests and their incentives are tied to a particular status quo, it's always difficult to get them to understand why you should take them away from it. And that brings us to the topic, or to the subject matter of risk. Because there are risks associated with this, because of the economic incentive attached to this, because of the societal incentive attached to it. So this, when we are going to say that we are decarbonizing or we are moving away from fossil fuels, we're not going to do that. It creates risk. And so there are policy risks, there are regulatory risks, there are technological risks, there are even legal risks. Blakk Rasta, if someone should lose their job because of energy transition, they can take you to court. That's the legal risk. They can take you to court to demand for a judgment debt. And look at the huge loss that government revenues would have incurred. Because about 80 to 90% of whatever happens in energy, in any national oil company or any country that produces oil, about 90% of their public expenditure comes from the proceeds of the energy. And one day you want them to transition away from this. It's not going to be easy.
Do you think that the 24 years that is envisaged
The scenario
would come to pass?
Yes. So, as an expert, I don't want to say yes or no, because scenarios are just
experimentals.
Exactly, and they are estimates. Let me put it down. They are estimates. You either reach them or you do not. And Blakk, I'll give you a classical example. You and I have heard that by 2020 we are going to achieve universal access to electricity.
Yes.
Has that been done?
Not.
But why?
Not done.
Not done. Because that was the scenario they have kept out there. But 2020, we should connect every nook and cranny of Ghana to the national grid. But it's not done. So this scenario, if you ask me, as an expert in that field,
it's a working title.
Yes. I cannot come out to say yes or no. But we have always been mentored and orientated to stick to the scenario that yes, it will happen, and then we'll put our shoulders onto the wheel to make that possible.
I'm looking at a situation where we succeed in using, in staying away or transitioning from
fossil fuels.
Yes, fossil fuels.
To clean.
What happens to those fuels now?
Yes. So, Blakk, if you recall, I told you they are finite natural resources. Even if we continue to tap them, there will be a day that they will not be there.
Oh, okay.
You see the logic?
Okay.
Even if we continue to tap into them, a day will come.
They'll be finished.
They will be finished.
They will run out.
Exactly.
All right.
And that's even where the bigger danger is. So it's more like the elephant in the room. Because when it runs out and you have no alternative, what do you do? What do you do?
We have to find other alternatives.
Exactly. And that is why this conversation is very important, because we have to begin to look at sources we can find other alternative energy to augment the already existing ones that we have. Especially, not just alternatives, but clean sources of energy.
So fossil fuels.
Yes.
We have a danger of having that run out.
Of course, they are finite product, they are finite resources.
Interesting.
Yes, it's just like gold. If
How
you have a
about-
gold mine,
How about water?
water, yes, so even water is a finite resources.
Wow.
But you see, because water is actually tied to our lives, we have always find ways and means to keep them running. But Blakk, you and I are here. There are times you go home and open your taps and water will not flow out, because the person mandated to give you the water, maybe it's not in good capacity. They would have told you that maybe the valves are rusted, something is broken, and water may not come out.
Okay. All right. I mean, my guest is Luqman Abubakari. He is an independent energy analyst, and we are looking at alternative sources of energy. I mean, transitioning from fossil fuels. And it's interesting. Now, is Ghana ready for this?
Yes, Ghana is ready. But like I told you, it has to start with the national oil companies. Because any oil producing country has a national oil company. But Blakk, again, the argument gets tougher, because I told you, I made a very subtle statement that if people incentives and entitlements are tied to a particular status quo,
Yes.
do you think they would want to ever
They'll fight it.
Exactly. This is the point I want to make. So yes, it's possible, but it has to take a lot of political will. And that will is not just a will, but a good and strengthened political will to achieve this. It's possible, but policymakers would have to rethink about transitioning, rethink about, take away their interests, take away their entitlements, and think about the future. And the future remains clean. The future remains green.
Luqman Abubakari, I want to thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much, Blakk Rasta, for
But
having
if you
me.
have any other thing to add, why not, man?
Yes, so Blakk, the last thing I will add is just about you. I'm going to tell you something interesting today.
Okay.
You are one person who has shaped my radio life
Oh, wow.
during your days in Radio Savannah,
Oh.
all the way to Good News FM in Takrady.
Oh, so you're a radio person?
I'm a radio person. I love
Wow.
radio.
Interesting.
And you have actually influenced me, because you make radio very lively. You make radio very real.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yes, you make radio very. Those days in Takrady, Chapel Hill, where Good News FM is.
Yes.
When it was getting in the evening,
Yes.
almost everyone around would log down to your program, the Taxi Driver Show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were dishing out
For
tunes
real.
after tunes. So you are one person who has shaped my radio life. And even whilst I was abroad, I used to, send in my
Requests.
and stuff
Yes.
like this, just to keep in touch. So I thank you for this. And of course, I will let you understand one thing today, that we are impacting a lot more millions of people out there. To do the good work.
We will.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Blakk.
Luqman Abubakari, for talking to us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
This is 3FM.
All right. Well, since you're ready to party, let's keep it a rolling.